Mago stretched his 4 bulky arms, loosening up his muscles before the big match. Despite the hulking alien's 9-foot frame, he was surprisingly limber. Years of arena fighting had honed his physique and reflexes. In the brutal fighting pits of Varvok 6, only the strong survived, and Mago was one of the strongest. He hadn't lost a match in years, reigning as champion with his brute power. A chime sounded, signaling the next fight's start. Mago strode towards the arena entrance, head held high. The crowds erupted into deafening cheers as he stepped out into the sandy pit, raising his arms to rally more noise. Mago turned towards his opponent's gate, eager to size up his next victim. But when the gate lifted, what emerged made him pause in surprise. It was a human. Mago snorted in amusement. This was clearly a joke match, a bit of entertainment before the real fight. Humans were galactic pushovers, signing treaties and crying peace to all. Their military was laughable. What could this scrawny creature hope to accomplish against him? Yet, the stubby, soft-skinned human strode up confidently, just reaching Mago's chest and height. It was dressed simply in cloth shorts and had some kind of strip of fabric tied around its head. The crowds laughed and jeered as the mismatch became apparent, echoing Mago's thoughts. Raucous calls rang out for him to make it quick and crush the weakling human. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," Mago rumbled in amusement. "But you won't last a minute against me." To his surprise, the human smiled in return. "We'll see about that, big guy," he replied in passable Varvokian. Mago frowned, then let out a booming laugh. This creature had spirit, if nothing else. "Maybe you'll provide some entertainment before I flatten you," he retorted. Mago shifted into a fighting stance, clenching his mighty 4-armed fists. He'd finish this human in one blow. No point dragging out this charade. At the starting signal, Mago lunged forward with blinding speed. To his shock, the human deftly sidestepped his swing. As his momentum carried him past, it landed a sharp strike on his thigh. Mago spun with a roar. The hit hadn't really hurt. It was more an indignity that this frail being had managed to land a blow at all. His pride was wounded far more than his leg. He charged again, throwing all 4 of his burly arms at the human. But somehow, impossibly, it ducked and dodged his grasp. More jabs landed on his torso in painful staccato bursts. The crowds had grown more subdued, seeing Mago struggle against the agile human. This fight might not be the quick demolition they had anticipated. Mago could hardly believe it. The human was using his lumbering size and reckless strength against him, redirecting his momentum and slipping into his blind spots to deliver stinging strikes. Back and forth they danced around the arena. Mago occasionally landed crushing hits that would shatter bone for most species. But the human resiliently shook them off and kept coming. Its endless peppering blows were gradually taking their toll. After a grueling 20-minute exchange, Mago was panting hard. His muscles burned with exhaustion and dozens of painful welts marked his body. The human had even swelled one of his eyes shut with pinpoint palm strikes. But it was still lightly bouncing on its feet, ready for more. The crowds were fired up now, thunderously cheering each time the human evaded Mago's grasp. With a desperate bellow, Mago threw all his weight into another massive charge. But the human neatly sidestepped once more, sending the huge alien stumbling past into the arena wall. As Mago spun back around, roaring in pain and frustration, the human pressed its advantage. It unleashed a furious flurry of blindingly fast punches and kicks that drove the massive alien back. For the first time in years, Mago found himself completely overwhelmed. He swung his fists wildly, trying to bat away the human's unrelenting attacks, but it was no use. With one final mighty kick, the human swept Mago's legs out from under him. The arena shook with the impact as the hulking alien crashed to the ground. The chime sounded before Mago could struggle back to his feet. It was over. The human had won. Stunned silence gripped the stadium. Then thunderous cheers erupted from the stands. The scrappy human underdog had just defeated the mighty Mago. The audience exploded with joyful disbelief at the upset. Mago lay slumped on the ground, trying to process the utter humiliation. He had never imagined a human capable of besting him, but this one had proven guile and skill could overcome brute strength. As the human waved happily to the adoring crowds, Mago gained a newfound respect for humans. There was clearly more to their species than he had assumed. From that day on, Mago watched eagerly whenever a human competed in the fighting pits. Their unconventional strategies and dogged determination made them deceptively formidable. The human who had beaten him continued winning match after match, becoming a fan favorite. Viewership and gambling on the fight skyrocketed any time there was a human participant. And Mago learned to never underestimate humans again. As the victor had warned him, you could never count them out, no matter the odds against them. Their courage, creativity, and resilience made them dangerous fighters. Through persistence and innovation, the human underdogs were making a name for themselves across the galaxy. Their exploits would soon become the stuff of legend, and Mago now bore the scars to prove he had witnessed their skill firsthand. After retiring from the arena years later, Mago decided to pay the human a visit. He found him running a modest combat training gym, passing his unconventional techniques on to new generations of human fighters. "I want to thank you for the lessons you taught me," Mago rumbled sincerely. "You opened my eyes about your people. I will never again make the mistake of underestimating humans." The former fighter smiled. "No hard feelings, friend," he said, offering Mago his hand. "As we say on Earth, never judge a book by its cover."